and welcome to Sacred Spaces. My name is Michaela Drieberg and today we're at Laver Arena, or as it was first known when it was first built in 1987, Flinders Park, and then Melbourne Park, and then in 2000 it became what we know it as today, Laver Arena. Now today I actually have with me Ian Hopkins, who's the CEO of Norman, Disney and Young. Welcome.
Thank you, Michaela. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So Laver Arena is just one of many amazing arenas in this whole complex, isn't it?
It is, but it was the first building in this precinct, well, after the MCG, of course. It's been there for 100 years, and the glass house across the way. But in terms of the modern development of this precinct, Laver is the first. And it, as you know, and as you said in the introduction, was built in 1986-87.
And then first opened in 1988 for the Australian Tennis Open.
Indeed. Prior to that, the Australian Open had been held at Kooyong, and that was deemed not capable of accommodating a Grand Slam tournament. So in the early 80s, Tennis Australia started planning for this new facility that actually came to fruition with the first Australian Open here in 1988.
Now, something we were talking about earlier was about how this was one of the, I guess, the second big complex that came here, but it wasn't. Was it a part of a master plan? Did we know that it would be one of many sporting arenas in this area?
I think in those early days, in the mid-80s, this was seen as a standalone facility pretty much, but I think it was recognised that in bringing it here, the proximity to the city and the available space provided the opportunity for it to expand. And over the subsequent decades, with the building of Hisense and then Birragung Ma and of course Amy Stadium across the way, has really allowed the precinct, or been the blossoming of the precinct, to the fabulous collection of venues that it is today.
And it is fabulous. I mean, I love it. I'm a big footy fan, both AFL and NRL, and I can go on Anzac Day to the Blockbuster at the MCG and then walk across the road and go to the Storm Warriors game on the same day as well. Can you do that anywhere else in the world?
I don't think so, and you might even be able to come to a concert here in the evening
afterwards, to top it all
so
off.
You can have the full day in the precinct.
And that's not unusual, is it? It happens through summer season, winter season,
yes,
all of the above.
It does, and I think that the fact that all of the venues are in such close proximity to each other is fabulous, and with the addition of Birragung Ma, the atmosphere that's created as you walk down from the city to a function here or to a match at the MCG, or then walk back, and the camaraderie and the spirit that exists in that situation is just a really special part of Melbourne, I think.
Was it always meant to be multi-purpose, or was it just a tennis centre?
No, definitely multi-purpose from the outset. So there was always the vision that while the tennis, the venue, its use as a venue for the Australian Open was the primary driver, it was always seen as a multi-function arena for use for concerts, and that was part of the commercial justification of the original development. And as we know, it's performed exceptionally well in those various modes. So.
Well, Ian, I've been inside the arena for a number of concerts, but I've never seen it with a special guest tour. Do you mind giving me a tour?
Be happy to do so.
Okay, let's go have a look. Well, Ian, we're actually in Laver Arena right now, or as tennis fans would know it, centre court, but it's also used for many other things, isn't it?
Certainly is. It's a fabulously versatile space, and with the ability to be adapted for concerts, and that's probably the primary secondary use, if that's the right term, that I've benefited from. But motocross, they actually had a swimming pool in here for the World Championships in 2007, so the versatility of the place is quite amazing. And
there isn't a bad seat in the house?
Definitely not. It's a great piece of architectural design to have set this up so that 15,000 seats, and even if you are up in the nosebleed area, which you mentioned you've been at some stage.
I've been in the very last row, and it was still a really great concert.
Still a great view, isn't it? And a great sense of atmosphere everywhere in the arena.
It is indeed. Now, something else that you mentioned to me was the key feature, or one of the key features of this arena, is the roof.
Yes, the openable roof. At the time this was designed in the mid-80s, it was one of very few in the world, and certainly none of the other Grand Slam tennis venues had any roof on at that time. And the openable roof was an important part of the design criteria, because at that stage they weren't allowed to play an open tennis event in an enclosed venue. But over recent years that's changed. Wimbledon, as you're probably aware, has now installed a roof as well, but it was a very innovative piece of design to put an openable roof on a project of this magnitude, facility of this magnitude.
And how long does it actually take to open the roof?
The exact time I'm not sure, but it's about 45 minutes to 50 minutes. It's very slow moving, and it requires very little power for that reason. The motors have significant torque to get it started, but once it's started and running on the bearings, then it just moves slowly and doesn't absorb a lot of energy.
So it's not something that you can just press a button if the heavens open up and we start having a shower in the centre.
No, you'll see if you watch the tennis, the commentators will be saying if there's weather somewhere in the vicinity, I'll be saying they have to start thinking about whether they're going to close the roof sort of at least an hour or more before the action actually occurs.
Wow. And so having the closed roof and it being closed most of the time, obviously there's a need for temperature control as well in here, which you were quite heavily involved with.
Indeed. My company, my own involvement was with the design of the air conditioning as part of the original design team for Rod Laver, and in a voluminous space like this there are a lot of challenges, and we've resolved those challenges in this case by supply from the roof, and then the air travels down through the space and is picked up by return air grills in the face of the court, and then returns to underneath the seats to the plant rooms, which are up between the super boxes. So it was a very interesting challenge to fit that system in with the architectural and structural design, and it was certainly from my point of view a very rewarding exercise to be involved as part of the design team on such an iconic project.
Yeah, and something that you would certainly feel the benefit of yourself when you come and enjoy some of the concerts and some of the events that happen here.
Too true. And that, well, it's a great facility for Melbourne, so you would appreciate it as a Melburnian anyhow, but having had that integral involvement with it just obviously adds another significant dimension.
It does. And another challenge that you mentioned to me was the temperature control of the actual floor as well. And I know, having seen in the past, there's always a distinctly hot day during the tennis open in particular, but then there's the extreme opposite where we've had people swimming on the court as well. So what's some of the things you've had to think about in terms of the floor?
Well, the challenge with the floor, or the situation with the floor, was that the original surface was rebound ace, which, or known as rebound ace, an Australian developed product initially, that had quite a thick upper layer, and in the really hot weather that absorbed the heat. So on those sort of 40-degree days, the court temperature could get up to 48, 49, obviously not ideal if somebody's playing a 5-set match. And after a couple of hot Australian Opens in the mid-90s, we were asked to look at some options to perhaps try and cool the floor, and we looked at things such as putting chilled water pipes under the floor to provide cooling. Very expensive and complex exercise, obviously, because you'd have to pull the floor up, and then also looked at the possibility of putting spot cooling into the corners of the court just to give the players behind the service line some relief. But it was very difficult to get a practical solution that would work, and then by the subsequent Australian Open it was a bit cooler, so the problem went away for a while, and then it's ultimately been solved by going in 2008 to plexi cushion, which is a thinner layer surface, and the cooling issues are much less. There's much less focus on the requirement to cool the court now.
Now, something else you mentioned is that there's a function centre here as well, which you were involved in.
Yes, yeah.
Can we have a look at that?
Indeed we can.
Okay, great. Just this way?
Okay.
Okay. One of the things we spoke about when we were in the actual arena was just the multiple purpose and use of this facility as well. And one of the bonuses that you mentioned is the function centre behind us.
Indeed, the function centre was added in the mid-90s, completed in 96, and it provides additional enclosed space for different entertainment functions that have really ridden on the back, or rode on the back at that stage of the popularity of the centre as a whole, and filled a niche that wasn't there. The entertainment spaces within the centre are relatively small, and most of the corporate entertainment was done in marquees. There's still a lot done in marquees, but this function centre has provided another dimension to that corporate entertainment capability of the precinct as a whole.
And is it always sporting events that are involved in the function centre, or can anyone really hire it?
Anyone can hire it, and it's in use throughout the year for different presentations and training exercises and entertainment generally, yeah.
In some pretty fabulous surroundings as well.
It is. It's a fabulous space, isn't it, when you look out over the trees, and the city's in such close proximity, and the proximity of the precinct to the city is wonderful.
Yeah, it is indeed. And you were involved again with, it was temperature control?
Yeah, air conditioning systems primarily for the function centre was our role, and it was the original design team, the original architects from the arena itself that moved on and did the function centre in the mid-90s, and so it was a really good extension of our original work to be involved with this particular project.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your sacred space with us today. I could really see how it's so special, considering the amount of amazing projects that you guys have been involved with as well.
No, this one certainly occupies a very special place in my heart, because it's such a special place in Melbourne, and I was intimately involved with it from the outset, and as I've said, worked with a number of close colleagues on it, so it's a very special project for me.
And something that you can see whenever you go anywhere near the city, you get to see something that you were involved with.
Yeah, and that provides a fulfilment that you don't often get in this industry, or you don't get it to that extent, I must say.
And to share it with all of Melbourne and beyond.
Yeah, and when you come with friends and family to functions here, truly special experience.
Well, thank you again for spending some time with us. I'm Michaela Drebeck, you're watching Sacred Spaces, and we'll see you next time.